Your dad's health is declining. Your mom has been his caregiver for years, and let's face it, she's not getting any younger. You're worried about her health. So when she finally agrees to let you help her find a senior living community for your dad, you're so relieved. You get on the phone to tell your brother, excited about the plan, but he's not as excited, and all hell breaks loose. I'm your host, Valerie Borgman. What happens when families disagree? Welcome to Desperately Seeking Senior Living, a podcast for sons, daughters, grandkids, and spouses who suddenly find themselves tangled in the search for senior living and care. If you like today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and check out our doable download in today's show notes for a printable summary of the show and a bonus tip from our guest. You're listening to our doable tips, short answers to your questions. Don't see your question listed? Send us a note. Then don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an answer. Hi, everyone. It's Valerie. Before we get to today's episode, I have a quick question for you. How many coworkers, neighbors, clients, or friends have you told about the podcast? Well, we know you have because our numbers are growing. Thank you so much for spreading the word. We've heard from so many families who have felt less overwhelmed just by listening in. If you find the podcast helpful, consider donating. Even $1 can help us continue to bring you the best episodes. Look for the donate button on our website or in show notes, and thanks for listening. Hi, and welcome to the show. If you're a regular listener, then you've heard me talk about the company that I own called ClearPath Senior Living Solutions, where we help families find the right assisted living, memory care, and retirement living. And before I started ClearPath in 2015, I worked in senior living communities. And I can tell you that I've seen all hell break loose many times. I've seen sons unable to cope with dad leaving the beautiful family home. At first, agreeing to a move because mom was just too worn out to continue providing care. But then, 6 months later, moving dad back, and mom had to become the caregiver again. Or sisters disagreeing on how much care mom actually needs. One seeing her memory loss as old age, and another seeing it as Alzheimer's, requiring a more secure memory care community. I've seen a family of 7 siblings literally argue their way through a tour of an assisted living, fighting over just how bad their parents really need the help compared to what it was going to cost. Or what about late in life marriages, where the children of each spouse have never even met? Now, both sides are in their corner protecting the interests of their parent, despite what their parents' wishes may have been. Care, cost, denial, guilt, competing interests, family dynamics rarely go away. And what about location? Is dad going to live near you or your sister? Taking away the car. Who's going to be the one to have that conversation? Or family members who may be living with your parents right now. Are you really going to kick your nephew out? What about business transitions? You thought dad made all the arrangements to transition his insurance company, but his Alzheimer's got worse before everything could be finalized. Guardianship and power of attorney, how much responsibility do those really entail, and who's going to be the chosen one? End of life arrangements. I know from personal experience just how difficult it is when plans haven't been made in advance. Every decision is subject to conflict. Add to that differing communication styles and conflict management styles, and you can see how easy it is for families to be torn apart. And unfortunately, this actually happened to me and my family. I was much younger, and my dad was dying. He was in hospice at a hospital, and he was unmarried at the time. So my brother and I were actually the ones in charge of his health care. At this point, he was on pain medications that prevented him from opening his eyes or speaking. A family member by marriage who I now suspect was most likely in denial, kept loudly speaking to our dad, telling him to wake up. But of course, he couldn't. And my brother and I saw this as so cruel. We just wanted our dad to be peaceful in these final days. After that happened, my brother and I restricted visitors to immediate family only. And when that family member and their spouse found out, we found ourselves in a screaming match in the hospice lobby. Now, of course, this is not something that I'm proud of, and I'm sure my brother isn't either, but it's what happened to our family. And that family member didn't speak to us for years after dad died. Honestly, we've never talked about it again. I'm sure that hospice lobbies everywhere have experienced some of these same situations. And maybe you have too. You've heard me say that most people do not want to talk or even think about senior living and care, even though most of us are going to need it. So imagine trying to make even one of the many decisions that must be made while under the emotional stress of facing the truth about your aging or dying parent. So, what could my family have done differently? What could I have done differently? Or what could yours? First, start the conversation early. It's very possible that when everyone has an opportunity to process next steps in the aging process, that there may be more agreement than disagreement. Unfortunately, we see so many families that are suddenly forced into decisions about care and living arrangements because of an event like a health scare. But starting that conversation early just allows everyone to have their voices heard before decisions have to be made. Second, make a list of all the current concerns. Is it your mom's health? Maybe the bathroom is unsafe and needs remodeling. Is your dad's memory loss making it unsafe for him to live alone? Having a list of the problems can help keep everyone focused on finding solutions. Now, you may be saying, Valerie, this all sounds great, but I know my family will never agree on these things. Maybe one of you is more literal and the other leads with their emotions and heart, and still another is completely checked out. Well, then you might need to consider option three, and that's mediation. Now, listen, I get it. Mediation sounds like such a serious thing, but bringing someone in who is completely objective can really help get everyone on the same page, help each of you be heard. There are mediators who actually specialize in solving these types of disputes. We're going to talk more about elder mediation in an upcoming episode. Unraveling the reasons family members disagree can be just as frustrating as the disagreements themselves, especially when important care and safety decisions are hanging in the balance. And we haven't even talked about how to have these conversations with mom or dad, whose safety, quality of life, and health are certainly worth the uncomfortable, sometimes heated, and emotional conversations. Today's episode is brought to you by ClearPath Senior Living Solutions. ClearPath helps families find assisted living, memory care, and other resources. Find our contact information in today's show notes. Check out this episode's doable download in show notes for details including industry terms and definitions we discussed, as well as a bonus tip from our guest. Have questions or your own tips to share? Leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, make it doable.